Hello and welcome everybody to this show. We truly are a global audience today. We have people participating from all over this globe. And of course, we also welcome our non-physical friends who are here today as well. And here we are at the 1111 Gateway at this important portal, if not for any other reason, but just because so many people are focusing their energy on it on this date. And I have been feeling energies too, but it's been a very beautiful day here today. At the moment, we're going through into the summer, and we are experiencing monsoon rains, which have arrived, which means that everything's so green. Everything's blooming, everything's boomed into life. There are lots of butterflies everywhere. So I've decided to go for a walk this morning. And yeah, I went up to the decided to go up to the highlands, and I had a beautiful example of how having the eternal self in my life actually works. So I've looked when I sat into the car and I went out on the road, looked into the direction of where I was driving, where the walk is. Of course, there were big clouds, grey. It was all grey and it looked dark. It was raining. And if I listened to my mind, I basically would have turned the other way, because I thought, wow, it's not going to be much fun. But I just kept going. I knew there was something different there. And I drove through the rain, through the cloud, and on the other side it was very sunny. So I had a beautiful time. There are lots of big, gigantic trees there. The rainforest actually has very intense energy. It actually makes you really face yourself if you're willing to work with it. The trees are so alive. There were lots of birds, little turtles at the lake. It was just beautiful. So here also I have some announcements. There will be quite a few, workshops coming up, just with a number of different things that people, have mentioned that they may actually need some assistance with. One of the ones that is coming up is going to be from processing to mastering, and it also will have to do with just how do we move from processing emotions into dealing with everything in a masterful way. Another thing, I will be working with other people, and there are quite a few things in the pipeline, so check out for the announcements on my website. I will also post on Facebook to keep everyone informed. And I'm really looking forward to all of those events. And I'm looking forward to working with you in this way as well. So let's take a deep breath before we go any further. And just relax into the now moment, and just feel into everybody that is present in this workshop today, at the show today, and also that will be in the future, because with the energies and with mastery that we are working with, the time actually does not matter. So whether you're present now or whether you're present watching this sometime in the future, you are just as much part of this group, part of bringing out this information as those people that are present at the moment today on the 11th of the 11th. And so here we are. We are Michael. We are Michaela. And we are here just to demonstrate to you just how easy it is, this dance between the human and the eternal self. We just step forward, the human steps back, and then when the situation changes, the human steps forward and we step back. And it is a dance, very easy, very seamless. And we work like this throughout the day, depending on the situation, depending on what's happening, and also depending on just how allowing the human is, because we do wait for the human to allow. We do not push ourselves onto the human. We wait for the human to allow our presence to be with them, and also to step forward. So there is it is a relationship, and a lot of time is spent on working on the trust, because it does include and it does require vulnerability on the part of the human. And vulnerability is one of those things that has actually not been very cherished or treasured in the 3D reality within humanity. Um, People, it was just not safe to be vulnerable, or it was considered not safe to be vulnerable. And that actually closed the door. It closed the door to the soul, to the eternal self. It closed the door to all the other realms. And so the mind actually created the world on its own, and it tried its best. But now, with our joy, and in our joy, we are happy actually that the times are changing, and that there are so many of you that are having this great courage to step into the vulnerability, to step into allowing, into surrendering, into allowing your eternal self to be present, to dance with you, to play with you, to live with you, to walk with you. So today we wanted to talk about a little bit about um, all the different ways that you are required to love yourself, and that you are that actually the ways that may trip you, because we know in our experience with Alex, and as Alex would herself say, these were some of the things, and still at times are some of the things, that actually easily trip and make the human self forget to open up, to be vulnerable, to allow the eternal self to be present, to enter into those spaces, to enter into the human spaces, to enter into the mind spaces, to share the spaces that exist within you. So one of those ways, of course, one of the distractions, of course, is all of the stuff that is happening with humanity, all of the stuff, global stuff that is happening with nature, all of the things that will continue to happen and will intensify, because all of these things depend on what humanity, the mass consciousness, decides. The times of change are here. The ball is rolling and there is no stopping it. How humanity decides to deal with it, because of the free will, depends on humanity, and the actual intensity of change, and the intensity on the level of disruption and calamity that happen with the weather depend on what humanity chooses, and how it chooses to walk through these times. As you yourself know, you know, it can be quite challenging to be awakening. It is not all just flowers and roses. I mean, it is both at the same time. It is the most beautiful time. It is the most intense time that you have ever experienced, but it can also be the most challenging time, because, as you know, everything that has been hidden, it does come to the forefront to be integrated, to be released. So with with the distractions, it is so easy to fall back into the old patterns when you see, or if you watch on the news, or if you hear of the stories of all the weather events, of all the things that humanity does, of the mass shootings, of all the different crises, of all the dramas that happen. Those are the times that can easily trip you up, and basically you can forget to love yourself, and you can fall into the old patterns. So the best thing in those times, the best way that you can actually help humanity in those times, is to actually love yourself more, not love yourself less. Because this is the only way, by you loving yourself, you allow all of these cosmic, amazing, loving energies to exist in this realm, and you allow all of these energies to be available to everybody else if they so choose. That is why it is not selfish to do this. That is why it is actually helping everybody. So sometimes people may think that, oh wow, I should be doing more, I should be doing things in the physical world, I should be sort of writing about it, I should be joining the protests or anything like that. And you can, it's not a problem. You choose your own life, you can do whatever you like, but the main thing is to remember to love yourself in those times. um, and another place where we actually can forget to love ourselves is when there is drama happening within our family, within the close ones. And it seems so challenging for the human self in those times to love yourself, because you are programmed, you have been programmed, the mind has been programmed to put everyone else first. And to actually choose in those moments to take the time for yourself and to love yourself, it actually requires mastery. It is when you keep doing that, it does become easier. Although at times when you do learn and master new tools, then what happens is you create also challenges so that you can show to yourself that how to that you can apply and that you have actually mastered those tools. So at times it does appear as if you are going backwards, because you're walking along and everything is just going so well, and all of a sudden some drama happens and you think, oh no, oh no, I've gone backwards. But it is not true. It just, this drama has presented itself because you are now able to deal with it in a masterful way. Another way, which also of course can trip you so easily and where you forget to love yourself, is when all those aspects, all of those past lives do come home, start knocking on your door, and actually want to be integrated, want to be let go, want to create drama within yourself. And again, if those parts of yourself that you have identified with the most throughout your life, depending on your life circumstances, when they come, when they start, start to make noise, it is very easy to actually start identifying with them again and to forget to love yourself. And they may be angry parts, they may be, normally there are parts that play with the victim energy still. So again, in those times, you are not going backwards. You just have to remember to love yourself always and every time, in every place, in everywhere. Love yourself. Remember to love yourself. We cannot stress this enough. And even though it can be quite challenging at times, but the more you do it, the more you remember to do it in those stressful times, the easier it gets. So when in doubt, love yourself. Another thing that we wanted to talk about today, that a lot of there a lot of things actually um, become so much easier when you have this dance of human and the soul and the eternal self. One of the things that you don't have to do is agonize about the choices. Which way should I go? Should I go this way? Should I go that way? Or should I choose this? Should I take this opportunity? Should I say yes? Should I say no? You can trust that whatever you choose, it is going to work out. And whatever you choose will be the right thing that you have chosen, because you just cannot make the wrong choice anymore. You cannot actually, the opportunities, the old saying that opportunities only knock once, actually have gone out of the window a long, long time ago. So when a choice presents itself, go with whatever you would like to experience. You are the creator. Choose and then just commit to that choice that you've made. And that is all that is required. And then all of the opportunities, the next step will present itself. And all you need to concern yourself with is to take that next step, and then the next step, and the next step. And before you know it, you are in a very different place than you were before. So whenever you find yourself that you are agonizing or stressing about something, Just know that you are working then with your mind. Take a couple of deep breaths, allow your eternal self in, and move on. Enjoy the present moment, and just make that choice and take that next step. So in this way, the mind does start to trust more and more and more, because it starts getting so many experiences when things have actually worked out. And becomes much easier to work with fear. Now, fear is one of those emotions that is normally very present in this reality, and it's not one of those things that you can actually get away from. And it's got nothing to do with whether you have yourself dealt with it or not. It is just so present within mass consciousness, and because you are choosing to stay in this reality, you will always be feeling the fear. The easiest way to deal with fear, of course, is to just let it be. Just let it be. There is actually nothing you can do with it. There is no need to fight with it. There is no need to try to chase it away. There is no need to pretend it's not there. It is just it just requires you not to identify with it. So at times, for example, let's say when you yourself feel fear about a particular potential of in your life, sometimes the fear itself is the scariest thing. And when you do breathe through it, you will realize once you make a choice to deal with it, to actually go to the other side, to step through it onto the other side, it does, it, it the act- the thing happens quite quickly. So you're able to step through the fear very, very quickly. Sometimes you may need to repeat this quite a few times before the fear itself gets the idea that you have decided not to listen to its voice. Um, and sometimes Alex has had experiences before where she would be doing something completely different, and all of a sudden, a big wave of fear went through it, and then she realized it was actually didn't belong to her. It belonged to mass consciousness. Mass consciousness was at that time experiencing fear. So you need to you need to develop and become discerning. Is it even your fear, or is it the fear of mass consciousness? And the mass consciousness fear becomes your fear once you start identifying with it. So, and it doesn't matter whether it is yours, it doesn't matter whose it belongs to. Just as long as you don't identify it, you will be able to walk through it, or rather allow it to go through you. As some of you know, we do have people here today that are at different levels of understandings, and at different levels of, some are awakened, some are still just starting to awaken, some are, well on their way. And as we know, actually, the consciousness is stationary. Basically, it's everything else that moves through you. So that is why it's so important to actually be open and to allow, because otherwise it's like you are damming the energy, creating dams all over, and then they get stuck in your body. But only if you do identify with them. If you don't identify with them, you can let the energies just flow through you. And there are energies that are not as pleasant than others. Some energies are more pleasant than others. But when you practice, the more you practice, the more you are able to allow them to go through you. And you also experience that as you are allowing all of the energies to go, just flow through you without you having to identify with them, you also realize that none of these energies can actually do anything to you. None of these energies can damage you consciousness in any way. None of these energies are even damaging to the human self. These energies were only traumatic and damaging, in the past, when you have identified with them, when you have not allowed them to flow through you, and so they got stuck in your body, and then that's how the disease gets created, and it's just because of all these non-movement of the energy. So the important thing with being with this way of being, of course, is also discernment. And discernment comes very handy in everyday situation, but it also helps you to navigate your own self, because as you know, the more you become aware, the more aware you become of just how many parts are within yourself. And not only that, you're able to sort of hear all of the different voices and feel the energies, and you understand the language, and you feel the energies, of course, from the mass consciousness, from other people, from other individuals. And it can become initially, overwhelming, because how do you know who to listen to? But as you practice, and as you are with these energies, and as you sort of listen to all the different voices, you do start becoming very discerning. And discernment and judgment are actually quite different things. A lot of people are afraid to be discerning because they feel that they're judging. They don't want to be judgmental. But being judgmental is actually, it's putting a positive or a negative charge on the energy. So when you are judging something, you are making a judgment that it is either good or bad. Being discerning, it just means that you recognize something for what it is. Like, for example, let's say if I'm on a walk, we're walking through the woods, and discernment would mean that we just look at different trees and we say, yeah, this is this kind of tree, that's another kind of tree. We're not actually saying, oh, this is a better tree or this is a worse tree, but it is good to be able to discern that there are different kind of trees. So in the same way, with all these voices and energies that are wanting your attention, you need to be able to know who is who, and you do become much better at it. You do become very good at it. You become very much able to know, is this your eternal self speaking, or is this some other part speaking, or is this a past life speaking, or is this a mass consciousness, or is this energy from another human being? So as you practice, and as you just need to be in this space, and you will soon become very aware of what voice is, whose voice, who the voice belongs to. And the reason why this is important is because then you can actually make discerning choices as to what and who you identify with within yourself. Because none of the voices will actually go away. They just sort of go into the background. But being a multidimensional being, being a non-linear being, means that you are aware of so many different realities at the same time. And, you do need to choose where you actually put your awareness at any given moment. And you also choose what potential, which voice you follow, or which voice you identify with. It also means that you are never alone. It also means that you are never bored. It also means that you can um, you can look at everything from so many different angles, and you get holistic pictures of everything. And again, it is not a judgment of better or worse. You just start perceiving everything with so many different views, angles, and in so many directions, which is what makes life very interesting. One moment, please. Ah, okay. So Um, there's lots to look forward to for those that are just on this journey. Um, there are so many beautiful sensual experiences, so it's definitely worth walking this journey. But it does demand of you everything. It does demand, it always pushes you to the brink, because your eternal self, as we said, is always growing. It never wants to stand still. And the human self, as we know, likes the habits, likes the same situations, likes to do things over and over again. So it does require quite a bit of negotiating. It is, as it is a relationship. It does require um, conversation. And interesting, I'm glad that nobody, well, this is Alex speaking, I'm glad that nobody is hearing the voices in my head, because some of the conversations out there, it could be very funny between, you know, me and my own eternal self. As many of you know, my eternal self does have a name, Mikael, and also at, now I'm also calling her Michaela as well, because of course she and he and it has both male and female side, feminine and masculine energy. And majority of people are very aware of Michael. And here we are again. We are Michael and we are Michaela. Most of humanity does know us as Michael in our masculine, in our masculine side of ourselves. They are very familiar with that. They are very familiar with Archangel Michael. Although in the times past, people have perceived that we are not one or the other. We don't have a gender, and which is expressed in some of the paintings of Archangel Michael, where you wouldn't be even be able to tell whether he is a he or whether she is a she. And it would be accurate, because Archangel Michael is not a he. Um, she is not a she either. And for some, this can still be confusing, but there are definitely energies, there are distinct feminine and masculine energies are quite distinct. And if you choose to, you can actually become very familiar with your own eternal selves, feminine and masculine side. You do realize that you were always at special moments, you were very aware of them, of those energies always, but you just didn't know what they were. And once you realize what they were, when they present themselves to you in their wholeness and beauty, then you can you can feel them in a very conscious way. They also do come to the forefront as required and as needed. So there is a constant dance of all these different parts. And as we do go throughout the day, we don't actually, and for example, interact with people in our society, when we go out shopping and when we go out on the street, we don't actually um, introduce ourselves by different names, but we do constantly change the different parts, even as we interact with people. And we do, on some level, we very much notice that on some level, people are very aware that when we are present, because they do open up, they start maybe talking, about things that they have never talked to another person before. And then maybe when we leave, they wonder what's happened. Why did they sort of tell us all that stuff? But it is just that they have realized that we actually resonate with them, that we are safe, that we have created a safe space for them to be vulnerable. And that this is how actually we also, just being ourselves, doing something as mundane as shopping, we are helping others, because they, in that conversation with us were able to get in touch with their own self, with their own safe space. And maybe something has actually awakened in them, a desire to know more, a desire to reside in those spaces of themselves more. And they might, start thinking in a different way. They might start exploring this. So you never actually know um, the kind of effect you have as you walk around. So we in other realms always giggle when we hear you, the human self, when you say, oh my God, but I'm not doing anything. I wish I was doing more to help others. I wish I was, here I am, maybe just living my life, being a mother and a father, going, taking kids to school, doing all the everyday human things, and you don't feel that, and you feel like as if you're not doing enough. And yet we see the difference that you are making to those people that you do encounter, to your community and to your world, just by you being you. So in those times when you doubt yourself in this way and you say to yourself, I wish I should be doing more, just love you. Remember to love yourself. And that's all that is needed in those times. And keep developing your relationship and keep dancing with your eternal self. And the relationship will deepen. You will have amazing experiences, as those who have been on this journey for quite a while will be able to tell you. um, Alex as well, even though sometimes she gets pretty cranky with us. And we think she is a bit right at those times to be cranky, and it's not because we are making her cranky on purpose, but it's part of the continual deepening of this relationship. It does include a continual release, a continual becoming aware of the more not so savory parts and aspects that do come to the forefront. And this is what can actually be quite frustrating to the human self, because as we talked before, with those feelings of when you feel that you are making a step back, when something happens, when a drama happens in your life, and all you are doing is just testing the things that you have learned, the things that you have just learned. So just um, this last month for many of you was quite a testing time, where you feel like you're just pushed to the brink, to the brink of your abilities. And again, you are just giving yourself test, not to see whether you are worthy or not, but just to test your new abilities, to test your newfound tools, that to put them into practice. That's all it is. It is not about stepping back, or not for this not to have been true, because sometimes the human self does feel wonders, is this real, is this true, especially when you walk out among the humanity which is not aware. And these energies are so subtle, the feelings are so nearly etheric, that when you encounter those much heavier energies, it is hard to believe that they are real. But as you practice, you can actually feel those beautiful etheric divine energies, even in the most intense and darkest of places. Darkest meaning unaware, darkest meaning unconscious. That's what we mean when we say dark. And all of those dark places, basically, when when those places, whether they're outside or inside of you, when they open up and allow the soul to come in, your eternal self, your master self, those places light up. This is what happens. And that's why There is no need to fear those places because all they are is just that they have not known love. When Alex first became aware, very much consciously aware of us, she also became aware as we started touching her parts that have never been loved. Um, she at one point thought that, wow, there was only one part that knows how to love. It sort of felt like as if nearly 99% of her didn't know love. But this does not mean that those parts didn't know the human love. It's just that the human love and the unconditional love are so different. So when the human self touches upon the soul, especially from the beginning, um, it may seem as if all of the experiences that he or she had, that human self, were so dim, even though before that they felt wonderful. But just when they get touched by the eternal self, they may feel like as if they just were not intense. They were not intense enough. So basically, it is again easy in those times to feel, to beat upon yourself, to feel down, to feel, to judge yourself. And again, it is in those times that is just the most important thing to just stop doing that and just feel self love and allow even more and more and more. Okay, so I think we are now ready to have some questions. As you can see on your screen, you have a Q&A part, so you can submit some questions when you're ready. And we already have a couple of questions, so let's have a look at what we have here. Okay, right. So I experience a lot of fear, which stops me from doing so many things. Can you speak about how to deal with fear? Okay, so I think we have already answered quite a bit of that question. So you must have asked this at the beginning, but just for your personal, for your personal situation, because the fear is so intense at times for you, and it does make stop you from sleeping at night. It may help to have some music. It also may help to just have some recordings with you at all times, so that actually the recordings that do remind you of the beauty that exists, that actually do help you to go in, start feeling that safe space, because you will need to create the safe space within yourself, and you will actually need to then be, when the fear comes, when the feeling of fear arises, you will need to make that conscious choice to step into that safe space that you have created. Now, if initially it may help you to actually physically go and do things that make you feel safe. It these things can be like good reminders of the feelings of safety. So it could be like that you give yourself a good bath. It could be that you go for a walk, whatever it is that has, or even watching a good movie, a nice movie that helps you, brings up those feelings of safety. So once you start feeling the feeling of safety, just focus on that and keep reminding yourself of that, and actually create that space within you that feels safe, so strong that even when the fear arises, and that maybe for a while you even forget that you have that safe space, those feelings of safety will become such a big habit for you that you will be able to make that choice and step through the fear into your safe space that you have created inside of you. And just keep practicing, and you will become a master at this. And as we said before, as long as each of you and every one of you choose to stay here, you will have to deal with the feelings of fear, and they might not be yours, but you will still feel the fear. So it will do everybody a lot of good to actually be really proficient at this, to become really good at this, to be able to step from the fear into your safe space. Okay, so let's have a look at another question. Okay, my family is very important to me, but I am constantly pulled into helping others and often run out of time for myself. It feels like as if I don't love them when I say no. Blessings to all. And blessings to you too, dear one. Yes, family. Um, yes, it can be a challenge because you were taught, you were conditioned to feel that you have to put everyone else first, especially those ones that you love. And the way the love was presented to you and taught to you was that you do not love another unless you put them first. So initially there is quite a lot of resistance from many of your parts, when you actually choose to step away from that to when you start making different choices. So when you especially if your loved one or ones are in a drama or going through their difficult time, and of course it is okay to help them, but only once you have filled yourself with self-love, because otherwise you don't actually have anything to give and you're just contributing to their problem or enabling their problem. So again, it comes to the choice and to actually doing that step to speak and to say no. Um, the change won't happen unless you start doing this, and it is important. You can start with small no's. Do start with saying a no with things that are not such big things, just to give yourself practice, just to actually see that it is okay, just to see also the result and to see what happens with another person. Um, these things, Alex has found that, she has sort of experienced very similar things, that people react in a very different way. So some people may accept you and respect your space. Some people actually may create a big drama, and because they do feel when you're starting to withdraw from being their support, while other people might change very quickly and start relying on their own selves, and some other people might find other people to fulfill this role of a support person for them. But that what other people do is not actually, it's none of your business, even if it is your family members. Even with children, they are their own independent being, and they have their own soul, they have their own eternal self. So as you remind yourself of this, you're actually empowering them as well, because if you're looking at them always as someone needing your help, then you're also helping them to keep being in that victim role. But when you start making different choices, and even maybe if not straight away, but maybe it will take some time, but members of your family will also learn from you and will start doing the same for themselves. They will start turning inward for their support. As I said, it may actually not be straight away, but because they see the example of you, and they will see how it can be done, and they will see how it can be different. You will start noticing, maybe not straight away, but you will start noticing a big change in your family. And as Alex has noticed in her family, for the better, because the relationships become much, much healthier and much more satisfying for everybody involved. And all it took was you starting to say no, starting to look after yourself, starting to care for yourself, starting to self-love. And then when you have all that love overflowing, then you can truly help others. Okay, so it does appear that we don't have any more questions. So we are still waiting to see if there are any more questions coming in. But otherwise, we would just like to also stress to each and every one of you of what a huge, momentous what huge times these are, and what a momentous change is happening. And all of this, all of this change is not only on this world, on Earth, but the whole universe is experiencing change. And it is all because of what you are doing, because of your courage, because of you taking those steps in the direction, because of you choosing, you, the human self, choosing to allow your eternal self to be with you, to walk with you, to dance with you. And that is changing every level, every dimension, every being in existence, because you are giving, you are becoming a standard. You are giving an example of how things can be. And we also, on our side, if there are sides, we don't know how deep, how far this can go. It is new for all of us, and we are just as excited and just looking forward to the new experiences, because we also don't know what is around the corner. And this is what makes this whole journey just so exciting for both of us. um, and we are very excited to walk with you, to dance with you in this way, because we also expand. This walk and this dance expands us. It expands the whole universe. It expands, it creates new dimensions, it creates new worlds. It opens up potentials for humanity, it opens up potentials for everybody involved. And that is why when we look at you as this grand being, and we giggle when you look in the mirror and you wonder and doubt yourself. So this is where we are having our giggles, and not in a bad way, but we giggle with you because we just love you so. So we are seeing we don't have any more questions for today. So we might say goodbye for today. Enjoy the 11 of the 11. Step through that gateway, as we know that you will, because you are a courageous self. You are a courageous friend, co co-traveler, co-journeyman, and a woman, of course. And we bless you and we hug you and we love you so. Okay, see you next time.